Have you ever experienced a glitch in the Matrix? If so, consider sending it my way by going to astheravendreams.com. And of course, thank you. This happened back in the late 70s, long before the Matrix was conceived of, or the Wachowski brothers had hit puberty even. So, my friends and I just chalked it up as weird. To set the scene, disco was at its height, and my friends and I were just of legal age to go nightclubbing and drinking. Not that we'd not done it illegally before then. And Saturday nights consisted generally of a group of us meeting up at our local neighborhood pub in the suburbs, and then heading to the city center to whichever nightclub got the majority vote that night. Me being a bit older than my mates, I was the only one at the time that had a driving license, so it usually fell to me to be the transport for the group. Okay? My car wasn't the latest thing, about 12 years old at the time, but it got us where we wanted to go, for the most part. On the night that this event happened, there was myself and my two longtime best friends, plus the girlfriend of one of them. We decided to go to an out-of-the-way club that was situated in the back streets of the business section of the city center. Law offices, insurance companies, banking, etc. So, on a Saturday night, the streets were relatively clear, making for easy on-street parking. The few other cars parked around probably belonged to other late-night clubbers like ourselves. This section of town is laid out like this: long downhill sloping main streets that are paralleled to each other, with shorter side streets linking them, block by block, down the entirety of their lengths. It was typical of that part of the old centre, Birmingham, UK, and the mostly Victorian-era multi-story buildings. So, we all arrive, and I park the car in a space about halfway down the side street, which was literally around the corner from that evening's chosen club. Great, not too far to walk. We all agreed. And because of that, we all left our coats and that girlfriend's overnight bag on the back seat. Being a car from the 60s, there was no such thing as central locking, and car alarms were custom specialty items back then, so I had to go around locking 3 of the 4 doors from the inside, and then my driver's side door with the key, and then checking all the handles outside. Car crime wasn't really bad in those days, but it still happened, so I always had a mind for security. Plus, I was carrying my work toolbox and power tools in the boot, so that was firmly locked as well. That done, we all walked around the corner, left and up the slight gradient past 2 or 3 office frontages, and left again into the front door of the club. After a great night with me disco dancing most of the night with any girl that was keen, or even on my own, hey, it was the 70s, the club was beginning to turn out. Slow dance tracks from the DJ heralded the end of the fun, and we all gathered to leave. As usual for those days, having spent the night frantically dancing, I had sweated out the little alcohol I'd consumed, and was easily safe to chauffeur my pals home. We left via the main, and only, door, and, as a group, turning right and down the slope to the next corner to where we knew we had left the car. My heart sank when I turned that corner, though. The street was completely empty. Oh, crap, and other choice words. We all said mostly the same thing at the same time. The car's been stolen. It had been right there, at the curb, facing the corner that we had just come around. There was a lot of, what do we do nows, and me worrying that not only my car but all of my tools were gone. What made it worse? Being the young bucks that we were, we'd blown through most of our meager funds during the night out, and probably couldn't even scrounge up the bus fare home between us. First things first, after much head scratching, we all agreed that it was best to report the theft as quickly as possible. It was the days before mass communication, but there might be an outside chance that the car could be spotted by a patrol car. Panda cars, they were all called back then, and not many of them compared to today. While it was still being driven, and this meant a hike to the nearest police station. Remember, no mobile phones back then, which was on the other side of the city center. Quicker and easier than finding a call box or payphone in this part of town, and at that time of night. So, we all set off dejectedly in that direction, which meant continuing along the short side street that we were on to the next parallel main street, and up that long hill to the major road that joined all the main streets together at their top ends. Then, it would be a diagonal cut across the city center proper to the police station by the law courts. There was little conversations, but mostly it consisted of, "Are you sure you locked it? Yes, I'm bloody sure I locked it, I'm not stupid," etc. And then wishing the worst curses on whoever had ruined our Saturday night. We had made our way on to and part way up the next main block, passing another side street to our left. Then, during that next block, we decided to zigzag up the streets to make our route a little shorter and roughly diagonal in the direction that we needed to go. By this time, the chill 2 a.m. air had sobered up even my two friends and the girlfriend, and we were just stomping along to get the thing over with as quickly as possible. As we simultaneously rounded the left corner to the next short side street, we came to a dead stop. There was my car, parked neatly at the curb, in a parking meter space and not looking at all abandoned or trashed, as if by joyriders. I know what that looks like, having been the victim to a subsequent car theft. It was all as we'd left it, fully locked, and with all of our belongings as they had been. Nothing had been rifled through, and thankfully all of my tools were still in the boot. Not so much as a hair had been touched, it appeared. We all looked at each other, double-taking and glancing back all along our route, in kind of a what the sort of way. But it didn't take us long to rally ourselves, put on our warm coats, and get underway. Merely thankful that we didn't have to continue the grim march to the police station. We talked about it for about the next hour or so, and all the way home as I made the rounds to their individual houses, but we could not come up with a logical explanation. A 60s car was fairly sparse in terms of ignition security, but it still would have been a fairly skilled task to hotwire it. And it would have left some evidence of tampering, which was not the case. Likewise, the doors, not as difficult as today's cars to be sure, but still requiring some small skill or keys to overcome the locks. And then, why would someone steal the car only to abandon it after a couple of blocks? Or leave the valuables untouched? We all knew where we had originally left it. There was no dispute about that, nor individual false memories forced on the others. We all headed towards that side street as we'd come out of the club, after all. We couldn't all have been that mistaken. And I have always known where I last left my wheels. I couldn't afford to be without them for my job. Bear in mind, we found the car 1 main street and 2 side streets away, uphill. So it didn't roll there by itself, nor could it be merely pushed there. I always left the stick shift in gear in case the handbrake failed, a sensible precaution on old cars, which made it nigh on impossible to budge, as well as the fact that it would have needed to have been steered around the corners, necessitating access to the inside. Added to that, the car was facing in the opposite direction from how we had left it when going around the corner to the club. If a thief had taken it, they were a very neat and tidy person, leaving it exactly in a meter parking space, much as I would have done had it been me that put it there. Well, we never did report the incident to the police, and although we discussed it a few times in the following years, we never came up with a satisfactory explanation, other than the OCD thief theory. But I guess that now I've found out about glitches in the Matrix, I can finally file this one away as solved. We all stepped out of that nightclub into a slightly different version of the Matrix. Simple as that. Let me say that I have too many freaky things happen long before I knew anything about glitches. I'm talking like 40 years ago. But as a kid, memories and events are perceived in a way far different than the adult mind. I'm not saying that they're false or unimportant, just saying whenever you get older, you learn and gain experience. Well, some do. I've experienced so many glitches within the last 10 years that it seems to be gaining momentum. I think once your eyes are open and you experience something like this, you have two choices. Turn a blind eye, ignore it, and find any way to dismiss it, or the other option, which is to embrace it and strap in. You need to be prepared because you may not get a second chance to return to that ignorant bliss of denial. This was my way of seeing it until recently. It seems if you keep going down the rabbit hole, it can affect others close to you. But it seems that others can be dragged down into that rabbit hole with you. Like, for instance, in the one glitch where my friend who I was on FaceTime with was a witness. Now, when I was younger, another friend was directly involved. They chose to opt out. Although one doesn't deny what happened, he totally refuses to talk about it. The other admits to it, and simply doesn't care or think about it. Now comes my closest friend who passively is involved with many of my glitches, although she wasn't directly involved nor a witness. They took place in close proximity. At the very least, she is the first one I tell after I do experience something. That is, unless I experience something at her house. Then I don't usually say anything, because it freaks her out. She's the kind of person who opts out of this stuff. She knows it's a thing that some people believe, but doesn't know if it's real, psychological, spiritual, or just Twilight Zone stuff. Either way, unless she is directly involved and an eyewitness, she's pretty much my Agent Scully. Now to the glitch. I've been staying over at my friend's house while my house is being renovated. I'm a night owl on most nights. I'm up until 2:30 or 3 a.m., sculpting, drawing, just making something. It's my compulsion and my stress reliever. I would have to say spending time with my goddaughter is number one on my list of things that brings me peace. The second is my quiet time doing my sculpting while listening to narrated stories on YouTube. Also, everything and all things to expand my mind. Quantum physics, cosmology, history, and so on. Well, just this week, I was doing a late-night project. I was listening to YouTube on my phone, and it just goes dead. Totally shuts off. It wasn't Full battery, it was on around 30% when I last checked the time at 1:53 or 1:56 a.m. It shouldn't have died minutes later as it did. It has that warning chime of low battery. It's at like 15% and then at 3%, and neither one went off. Within 1, maybe 2 minutes after my phone died, there was a really bright flash of light behind me. I was in a well-lit room, and it was bright enough to make me jump and squint my eyes. I turned around really quickly, and nothing was there. The flash of light was so close to the back of my head, it was as if someone took a picture with the flash on while holding the camera an inch from the back of my head. I don't jump to wild assumptions, regardless of what some assume. I went against what I experienced and saw, and I just went to the logical conclusion. It came from outside a window, a few feet behind me, but I can actually debunk this idea. The window was about 95% closed with the shade totally closed and a big box fan. In front of the fan, there are a bunch of sculptures. To add to that, I was on the second floor. A car's headlight can't reach that high and be that bright. In order for light to penetrate a closed window through a closed shade and a box fan and sculptures and still be that bright is impossible. The other possibility is that it was a neurological or optical illusion. Okay, I thought. I'll go with that. Well, that explanation ended when my friend told me what happened at around 2:10 or 2:15 in the next room that same night, minutes after that flash. Now, bear in mind, I didn't tell her about the flash because of my standing rule that I mentioned earlier. Don't tell her stuff that happened in her house, that will freak her out. But this is what she told me. She was up, on her phone, and talking to a family member that was going through an emotional trauma. My friend was sitting up in bed with her 5-year-old daughter next to her sleeping. My friend then saw 2 orbs floating around the room, a few feet from the foot of the bed. Now, I asked direct questions, so I have a detailed description of the event. My friend saw them and did what she does in a situation like that. She ignored them, acted like she didn't see them. She said she didn't react, didn't do anything besides talk on the phone. She said she thought she was seeing things or that it was all in her head. But then she heard her daughter ask Mommy, "What's that?" My goddaughter woke up and saw it as well. My friend said, "Just ignore it and go back to sleep." They floated around for a few minutes and then disappeared in the blink of an eye. The description, there was 2 of them and they were independent of any surface, so they weren't reflections or light being cast from anywhere onto anything. They were typical colors of light, white light. They were not super bright, but in a dark room they clearly emitted their own independent light source. They were the size of a golf ball. They didn't give off static energy, and they did give off a sense of self-awareness. It was like watching them was almost like watching living beings. I asked what they were doing, and they were wandering around like when 2 people go somewhere new. At times, they moved along with each other, and then one would wander off a little ways, and then come back by the other one. That is how she told me. It's like when we go to the store, we walked together having a conversation, and then one of us walks off to look at something. While writing this, that same friend called with her daughter close by, so I asked for clarification on some things that I mentioned earlier. My friend told her daughter not to look at the orbs after she asked what they were, but she didn't listen and kept looking at them anyway. She said they were the size of her squishy light-up ball toys So, more the size of a golf ball, except slightly bigger. I know exactly what she meant. My friend didn't see them disappear because she forced herself not to look at them. Her daughter saw them disappear. She described it as a click or a blip, and goodbye. I asked if they floated away in a particular direction, and she said no, they just went away. So, they disappeared like shutting off a light. They confirmed that it gave off a weird energy, a feeling, not like static electricity. The feeling lingered even after they disappeared from sight. I did a full investigation of the room, even though they said they were free-floating and independent, still checking for light sources, reflections, all of that. But nothing. I asked if it was possible that it was something like a laser or a light from outside, but no. The windows were closed, shades were down with heavy blackout curtains in front. These curtains will even block out bright sunlight. Even with that, my friend said that her first reaction was to hit or shake the curtain behind her to check to see if there was a light leak that was the source of the orbs. It didn't affect the movement or light emission or the orbs at all. To preempt some questions, no, there's never been any paranormal activity or ghosts or otherwise witnessed by them in the almost 10 years they've lived there. No, they don't believe or think about the paranormal. They totally don't believe in aliens. I can rule out ball lightning because there wasn't any static electricity in the air. And my friend is really sensitive to electrical fields, but she didn't feel anything like that. No, they weren't insects because they were translucent and had a well-defined shape, not fuzzy or blurry, and they made no sounds. I will answer any serious questions about this. I'll ask them an update if necessary and reply directly. I personally never believed in orbs, because they almost are never seen with the naked eye. They only appear on videos or in still photographs, and can typically be dismissed as light reflections off of dust. The only people that I have heard that claimed they saw them with their actual eyes were on ghost hunting shows, and they've been proven untrustworthy or ignorantly biased. But my friend that I have known for, more than 30 years, we're so close that she named her daughter after me, and I have a common traditional male name. Yeah, we're close, and she's a non-believer in everything paranormal. It holds a level of credibility that I can't refute, and she had a witness sharing the event. When it all adds up, I can't say it didn't happen. What happened, I can only speculate and classify as a glitch. And I do have a wild speculation. What if I caused the orbs? That flash of light was so intense that came from behind me. What if it came from me? If we're in a simulation, wouldn't people like me who repeatedly have big glitches call attention to our existence? What then? Cosmic tech support? A reset or reprogramming? What if we aren't in a simulation? Do people like me act like magnets or portals? There's no other way of saying this next part without sounding like I have a god complex or the Truman Syndrome. And yes, there actually is a disorder based off the Truman Show. Look it up. But throughout history, there are stories of people with halos. I'm not saying I'm an angel because I don't believe in them, but what if they are based on people who are more like me than I understand? That light that came from the back of my head only seemed to have come from the back of my head. Maybe somewhere in my pot of goo, I have a data leak from the port in the back of my head. I laugh at this concept. Okay, I need a little break from this. As I said the Halo Angel part, I saw something at the corner of my eye run behind me, and that was twice in 5 minutes. And I'm at work alone because it's the holiday and everyone is off except me. I know this sounds paranoid, but I think I'm no longer anonymous. Sorry, I need to distract from this for a while. So, how about that Spider-Man movie, huh? I might have experienced a glitch in Walmart the other day. I've been racking my brain since it happened, but I can't come up with a reasonable explanation for what happened to me that night. First, let me set the scene and scenario for some context. Earlier that night, I was at my job closing up shop with my manager and a coworker who was a newer friend of mine. It was a pretty slow night for business, so we were just talking and goofing off while we were closing because we wouldn't have to deal with any more customers that night. My shift went by relatively quickly because I enjoy spending time with my coworker, and no annoying customers were coming in to bother us. Soon enough, we were gathering our things and clocking out, getting ready to leave when my mom sent me a text asking me to pick up 2 pizzas because we were having guests over. Of course, I obliged. She would pay me back, and I got to pick the flavor of pizza that we would be eating. I drove down the road for about half a block, pulling into the lot of the Walmart superstore and parking. I remember smiling to myself because I had managed to snag a great spot close to the entrance, so I wouldn't have to walk in the sub-zero temperatures of the Northeast. I got out and ran into the store, locating the frozen pizzas right by the entrance. I took a mental note of what flavor I would pick up, and made my way diagonally from the front left side of the store to the back right, because I needed to pick up some cheap paints while I was there. On my walk over, nothing seemed wrong or out of the ordinary. Everything was in perfect order. Arriving in the far right corner where the paint was located, a blue fluffy blanket with a majestic unicorn print caught my eye. The blanket was on a shelf with various other blankets with images of other wild animals. All of the blankets were wrapped up and held together with a thin cardboard package, displaying the image of the blankets on the front. The reason why I walked over to these blankets in the first place was because I bought my mom a blanket from Walmart with the image of the Virgin Mary for Christmas as sort of a joke gift. I wanted to take a picture of this unicorn blanket to show her because I thought it was hilarious. I approached the shelf with the blankets and I faced towards them. I was standing about 2 feet away, just staring at this unicorn blanket. I was frozen in place, in a trance-like state, fixated on the blanket. I had zoned out, something I frequently do, when a flash of bright purple light snapped me out of my trance. The light was bright like a flash from a camera, and it lasted for about 3 seconds. I whipped around to see if someone had taken a picture of me, but there wasn't a single person in sight. I looked all around, even peeking around the shelves, but there wasn't anyone close enough to have taken a picture or ran and hid without me noticing. I looked up toward the ceiling to see if maybe it was one of the store cameras that flash as you pass by, but there wasn't any of those either. Plus, those make a loud dinging noise when they flash, so I would have heard it. I stepped back and forth trying to recreate what had happened, but I was unsuccessful in all of my attempts. I even walked away for around a minute and precisely recreated what I did, but that strange light did not appear again. I briskly walked back to the front of the store to get the pizza and leave. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. So today, I went back to the same Walmart to do the exact same thing. This time, a friend came along just in case the light appeared again, so I could prove to myself that it was just something in the store that had caused the light. But no results. I honestly cannot think of what could have possibly produced this light anomaly. Sorry this is kind of long. I'm not sure where to post this, but I thought I would give this sub a try. So, a little background. I'm a project supervisor with a company as a third-party contractor, so when I go to different manufacturing plants, I carry my backpack with everything I need, including a small portable printer and a laptop. And this has happened twice now. The first time I just brushed it off, and it just happened again. The first time, as usual, I packed my backpack in the morning, and I get to the site and get my equipment out. And I'm missing the cord that connects my laptop to the printer. I distinctly remember coiling it up and putting it in the pocket in the back of the main pouch that sits behind my laptop. And it's nowhere to be found. I didn't go anywhere besides home and to work that morning, and I only keep my equipment in one spot in our house. After searching all over at home and where my backpack was at work, I can't find it. Okay, whatever. I go home and order a new cord online. Then, it happened again 2 days ago. It's been a couple of months since it first happened, and the same events happened this time. Roll up the cord, place it in the same pocket, get to work, and no cord. Only this time, both the printer charging cord and the connecting cord are missing. I had rolled them up together. I look all over the place my bag is at work, just in case it fell out, and look all over where I put my bag when I got home. No cords anywhere. There are no holes in my backpack, and I've taken everything out of my bag and searched, and no luck. My bag has only been from home to work and back. I'm completely clueless. I don't know if this is some kind of glitch or just bad luck, but they seem to have just disappeared out of thin air. Nothing else has come up missing, and both times the bag hasn't been out of my sight. And I have a routine for my equipment, so nothing is out of the ordinary. I feel like this time I'm just going crazy. I even had a coworker look as well. Has anyone else had something like this happen? I guess I'll order more cords, but this is just weird to me. So that was another week's worth of Glitch in the Matrix stories. Only 4 stories, but the video itself is longer than my normal Glitch video, which is definitely interesting. I love doing the longer Glitch stories, they're just so rare to find. But a huge thank you to the authors of the stories that I used, as well as the ones who submitted their stories to me. This was fun. Having a half-and-half video like that, kind of nice. I like it, so thank you. Of course, if you have a glitch story, please consider sending it my way. If you would, you don't have to, but it's appreciated. Another thing that's appreciated, if you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. You can also subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if you're not new, welcome back. And if you would feel so bold, you could leave me a comment down below. Now, this comment that you leave me could be anything. It could be, hi. It could be, how's it going? It could be my literal latitude, longitude, location as you dox me in my own comments. It could be, well, it can't be a link to a photograph of a bird. I was going to say that, but YouTube strips links, so that's not possible. Alternatively, away from all that, aside from all that. It could be a comment that will get featured next week on that week's Word of the Week segment, which is right now. On the screen right now, you'll see everybody who left me an entry to this week's Word of the Week, including one person who left it on a different platform, which was cool. That's never happened before, so thank you. Yeah, again, thank you to everybody who left me their comments. Always appreciated. You guys are amazing. Now, this week's Word of the Week is value. V-A-L-U-E. And I will allow you to use both the noun and verb form of this word. I'll accept either or. I'm going to give the definition for the noun, though. So, the definition to value is the monetary worth of something, a fair return or equivalent in goods, services, or exchange, or a relative worth, utility, or importance. Such as, there is immense value to the comments that you all leave on my video. The algorithm likes them. Feed the machine. And of course, sleep well.